Hey, welcome back to Vitamin B12 show number 2. Hey, we actually made it to number 2, although a few days late after a little delay with our personal lives. But that's okay because it actually gives us some cool stuff to talk about now with the TCU Baylor game going on as we speak. With me today, co-host EJ Hayes, as with me as always. Uh, Welcome back, EJ. And today we have a special guest, my colleague Garrett Sauls, who is a passionate football fan and is hopefully going to add a lot to this conversation. Unfortunately, he is also an OSU grad as well, so he'll probably agree a lot with us. But he's actually pretty good at stirring the pot as well, so we're bringing him for another point of view. So just start off today, let's do a quick recap on what happened last week between OSU and Baylor and OU TCU. I think that's the collective reaction from all of Oklahoma State.
Yeah, that's pretty much what could have happened. So let's just start with the second worst thing, which is TCU going for 2. Mm-hmm. Okay, you've knocked your quarterback out of the game. You've stopped Trevor Knight more or less completely. You've knocked both of their running backs out of the game. I think Pirine came back in a little bit, but he was hobbled. And you're going to go for 2? Your defense is dominating. You've got momentum. Are you insane?
I know.
That is the weak. Well, maybe it's because it's the ungundiest thing to do ever. Maybe. I mean, and Patterson's not Gundy. He thinks he's our Bryles, evidently, except he's not. Except he's not good at it. However, it just boggles my mind that you do that with 52 seconds left. It's not like you have 0 seconds left and you win. You win or lose. At that point, if you go for 2 and then they throw a bomb and beat you anyway, you're still an idiot. Mm-hmm. Like it pains me to think about that.
No, I agree with you there. It was very interesting to me, and the point you brought up about him wanting to be Art Briles. I think Patterson, especially lately, is thinking a little too much about Briles. It surprised me because everyone touts Patterson as this defensive coach. Oh, defense. He wants, his defense to be on the field, for the last drive to win the game for him. But that was the most undefense thing you could have ever done. Go for 2, but his defense was, who was OU playing? I don't even know if they were playing Thompson or Wright, towards the very end there, but you're going to tell me that TCU's defense, as banged up as they are, can't handle Cody Wright or Trevor Knight or whoever it is that OU's throwing at him, but I don't know. I agree with you. That was just an asinine call and very un-Patterson-like. I think Patterson's feeling the pressure right now to prove something, from all the outside factors that are going on.
Yeah, I would agree. And looking at Boykin limp off the field as we speak on a 4th and 7, I think he's basically feeling like, I thought we had an offense, and I thought we had a defense. Now that we don't have either, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do now. Mm-hmm. So. Do
you guys think it's like a last-second, almost Hail Mary? He's at the end of the season, is just trying to power through.
Oh yeah.
To get in, like to the best bowler, if he could, even the playoff.
This is his last home game, and he's trying to say, don't forget about me for Heisman, and TCU's hopes, whatever they are, to get in a good bowl game or just for Boykin to go out on a high note. Like this is it for him, So.
Well, the funny thing, Boykin wasn't even playing. They were playing with the backup, who was doing well, who had brought them from behind at that point. Mm-hmm. I think he basically went to the sideline and said, "Hey guys, what do you want to do?" And they were all like, "Go for it, go for 2, yeah." Well, guess what? You're the coach, and they're the players. So you need to figure that part out because we're not asking players what we want to do. That's why they pay you a lot of money to make those not very hard decisions. Mm-hmm. That's the stupidest. Dude,
So can we say Big Game Bob got Big Game Bobbed?
He did.
Yeah, he was smiling all the way too.
Yeah. So something I want to talk about that OU TCU game. So give credit to OU for winning that game. Like they stuck it out. They played defense where it mattered towards the end there. But all I ever heard from OU fans were oh, we would have been in it more if, Baker Mayfield wouldn't have gone out. But what happened to OU's lockdown defense in the fourth quarter? No one's talking about that. No one's talking about how they let Overculser, or whatever TCU's third-string quarterback is, rally against them in the fourth quarter. So why aren't we talking about OU's defense maybe kind of letting up or not being as elite as everyone is saying they are?
Yeah, exactly. It's basically the same guy that struggled against Kansas for a half.
Right.
It is what it is. I mean, you take a quarterback out, especially if you don't have a good backup, and it just changes everything. It is what it is. We happen to have two kind of crazy quarterbacks that both could play at any moment. So that's not been the case for the last 3 years because we've been in a carousel more or less, or hurt, or whatever we've been, or daxed, or whatever you want to call it. But, these guys that have Heisman quarterbacks, those don't just grow on trees, right? So evidently OSU thinks that Baylor's third-string quarterback is a Heisman winner, but that's beside the point. And K-State's fifth string, but whatever. Again, that's beside the point. So it just frustrates me that TCU was so close and didn't pull it off. But you know what? OU won the game fair and square. They stopped that last play. I tell you what, that was a big time play. I mean, he almost threw to a wide open receiver, so I have to give OU credit in that way. So let's stop talking about those guys. Let's talk about our horrible mess. so the thing about it is I thought about this all week with OSU and Baylor, and really, if we don't get thrown over the top of, if we keep everything in front of us, even if they have success, eventually we're going to pick it off. We're going to sack the guy. We're going to cause turnovers. If you throw it over our head, then we're done.
Right.
You've pretty much, if you can consistently do that the whole game, you've beaten OSU. And I know that's probably pretty self-explanatory for all teams. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm saying when OSU, just like with TCU, they kept Boykin. They didn't let any deep throws. Because of that, we kept them, out of their comfort zone. We made them work, and when they did that, they threw picks, they got sacked, they fumbled, etc. And you think about it, Baylor pretty much whipped our tail. If we hadn't had 3 turnovers, it wouldn't have been as close as it was.
Right.
But at the end, we had a perfect opportunity when that quarterback went out. Instead of went out, the backup quarterback comes in. You don't let him throw deep twice, or you pick him off one of them, or whatever. He gets rattled because we stopped him 2 or 3 series. So he threw a couple touchdowns, but he also got stopped a couple series, and we started coming back. We win that game. So, it's just one of those things where you cannot allow people to go deep. And it's the same thing this week with OU. You cannot allow Mayfield to throw it deep. Now, Mayfield's going to do some other stuff, which I'm not really excited about. But I believe that's the difference in OSU winning or losing, is that stopping the deep ball. So,
yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people are, the defense did let Baylor kind of do whatever they want. I mean, the third down defense was atrocious. I mean, Shock Linwood ran all over us. There's no denying that. But I think it was because we were in this very gray zone. We didn't know what to do against Baylor, whether that was against Stidham or against Johnson or whoever they had in there. And like you said, we just didn't keep it underneath us like we did with TCU. That was one thing I noticed with the TCU game is we kept everything underneath us. And then the front seven just took care of Boykin. And so they eliminated that big threat, and they eliminated Boykin's scrambling ability. But with this, there's just something different about it. And I think, credit Baylor's offensive line because those guys are men. Like they've proven that the system works. Baylor can plug in whoever they want, and the system works. And so I think that's where we lost that matchup. But I thought the defense got a lot of heat when in reality, I thought they played, half a game, and they played all right. But it's tough to come up big when your offense goes for 7 punts in a row, something like that. So
let's talk about that, because to me that is the storyline. What happened? Where did the offense go?
Well, the offense went because he started running on first or second down.
Yeah.
Stop running. It is not working. When you have negative yards, at the end of the game, it was like 300 to 21 yards. They had 300 yards rushing, and we had 21. At some point, they were to negative 21. Mm-hmm. At some point, you have to just say, we're going to pass it, and that's what we have to do. Don't even act like you're going to run it. That's stupid. Like, stop. You're just putting us behind the 8 ball, and then we're going 3 and out. That we don't run it on first down on the first series of a 3 and out. You know, we don't do that, and I'm telling you, it changes the game. We were throwing all over those guys. You know, I mean, I understand it. You have to balance it out. I get it. You have to get them to come up because they think you're going to run. I understand that. But at some point, Baylor's defense, I don't know what's going on with their being able to use 3 guys and stop our run. But you know what I think it is? I think guys know we suck so bad at running. At this point, they are basically stating, we're going to put 3 down linemen, and we're going to basically force you to check because we know you're going to do it. You're going to check down to a run. And then as you snap the ball, we're going to pull everybody forward and stop the run. I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, it's like so predictable. And I don't know how much, we, check and make it look like we're going to run, although we should do that pretty much every time. So they'll pull up and we can throw a 10-yard pass. But at some point, we've got to figure that out because we lost the game because of, I believe, poor play calling in the second half. I mean, it just is what it is.
Yeah. What I don't understand is, all we ever hear from Gundy is how much we want to return to a balanced offense. But I think the reality is that we're not going to do that this year. Not with this team. Maybe in the offseason, if you can develop the offensive line and maybe, get, Raymond Taylor to get in the line, maybe Justice Hill comes up and he's an elusive guy. Maybe that works out. I don't know. But the point is they're so afraid of being one-dimensional. But the thing is we're so good in one dimension. You look at Mason Rudolph's picks that he's thrown in the past few games. How many has he thrown in the past 4 games? 0 to 1, I think. It's been very, very, very limited. You look at the TCU game and the one-on-one matchups. We won those every time. So you're not, Baylor was down a safety or 2. You're not going to tell me that we're not going to win those one-on-one matchups most of the time. And even if Rudolph throws a pick, that's fine. Keep bombing it down the field because it works.
And you know what? I'll bet you if you bomb it down the field 4 or 5 times, the run will open up.
Exactly, and that's what.
It felt like we were forcing the things that we wanted to do when we can't do that.
Right.
You do the things that they allow you to do when you're killing them in another area.
Yeah.
When you have our running game, that's how you effectively run the game. We had a couple of against Iowa State, we started running it on like a kind of a sweepy type thing. And it worked, and we tried that same crap against Baylor, and it didn't work. Well, guess what? Baylor's front 7 is way better than Iowa State's. So don't think you're like a really good running team because you've had 100 yards, one time against Iowa State. Stop, go back to what you do, and pick them apart. You have to do that.
Yeah.
No, I mean they were even stopping J-Dub. I mean he wasn't even that. I mean he had some good stuff, but he wasn't. He wasn't effective either. They were stopping him.
I mean, the thing watching the OSU and the TCU game that's on right now, Baylor's front 7 is incredible.
Yeah.
They have a ridiculously fast defense that is willing to go up and hit you. Even on the OU game, that's what I saw, and I only half watched it.
Mm-hmm.
But they would go up, and they're not afraid to move and just run as fast as they can and pop you in the mouth.
OU had the benefit of having Baker Mayfield, so if you do that, Mayfield's going to keep you honest. He's going to scramble and probably pick up some yards. But when you have a Mason Rudolph with a broken bone in his foot, it's not going to happen. He's not going to scramble. He's not going to run. Maybe if JW's back there, it's a little different. But we didn't really see JW a lot in this game, which I thought was kind of interesting. I thought we would probably see more given how susceptible Baylor was to the run. I figured that we would try some different run packages with them, but I think just overall we just got out-schemed. That was it. I think Baylor's coaches, they knew exactly what to do. They scouted us out well. They had a very good unpredictability factor with Chris Johnson and Stidham, and they just out-schemed us, and that's how they won the game overall. And then they outplayed to boot, so that's that.
Yeah, I would agree. I hate Baylor with a passion, but when I really think about it, you're exactly right. They just simply beat us.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm okay with that because if you don't come to play, you get beat. I mean, we've acted like we weren't going to come to play several times this season, and we buckled down and did it. And we started to do that against Baylor. But you can't do that with a buzzsaw like Baylor. You can't spot them 25 points. it just doesn't work out like that.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So in the last 60 seconds, let's talk about a game that has no playoff implication, and that was the Texas Tech game.
Literally zero.
oh my
Yeah,
God.
zero implication. And
Texas might have some playoff implication for
If they can beat Baylor.
and beating Baylor. I have my own thoughts on that, but we'll talk about Tech and Tech.
Well, and here's my thought on the game. You have these guys that play in the SEC, and it's like 10-14, and they're like, "Oh, that's some great football." This game was fun to watch.
Yeah.
It had everything you want: trick plays, high scores, no defense, basically. No, I mean it was pretty decent defense, but they were just throwing it all over the place, and it was just fun to watch.
Well, and one thing is you had a little suspense because you thought Texas was going to basically score 0, and then Tech's defense sucks so bad that they're going to allow Texas to just do what they want.
Yeah. They made Chris Warren look like a Heisman candidate. Right?
Oh my God, where's this guy been? I mean, he was literally running over everybody.
I know.
Over them, through them. They were bouncing off. He was like total. I mean, I would vote for him today in the Heisman.
Sure. But
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is like, we talk about this, with Tech's abysmal run defense. So how much is it Tech's run defense and how much is it Chris Warren? I mean, I want to give Chris Warren some credit because I don't care who you are, that's just impressive to put a 300 or close to 300-yard rushing game like he did. Like that's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and one last thought. The satellite actually went out, so I couldn't see the end of the game. I just saw the score, and I just saw today the replay of the last play of the game. I guess it was the last play, or one of the close to the last plays where they did the trick play with the.
Yeah.
Okay, that was awesome. I remember seeing that play in junior high, watching film on Frederick, Oklahoma, and they were they did this play, and it was the only time they'd scored a touchdown the whole season or something ridiculous, and it was kind of the similar deal where something ridiculous. So the quarterback says, "Hey coach, hey, ref, this is the wrong ball," and he picks the ball up and takes off walking, or whatever the case is. But it's just. That's how Tech beats Texas this year. That's unbelievable.
Oh, I know.
What's crazy is that my son's 6-year-old flag football team runs that play, so that's pretty awesome. But 2, I was watching it with my dad, and Kingsbury runs that crazy trick play, goes in, scores. He is jumping up and down on the sideline and going nuts. And about 3 plays later, Texas scores again.
Oh, God.
And so
I didn't know that.
My dad was really kind of pulling for Texas just to wipe that smile off Kingsbury's face.
Kingsbury, that guy, he's exactly who he is. He's young and he's kind of stupid and he's kind of cocky, but he had to, Bryles, at least he's been around long enough to grow into his cockiness. I mean, he's an old man and he's cocky. That's fine. But Kingsbury, he just needs to, he needs to shut up and play. But, hey, the players love him, whatever. The ladies love him, whatever. You got that going for you, buddy.
I was about to say, if he ever gets fired from Tech, which I don't think he will this year, but say Tech has another, let's say they Tech again next year, where they start out real hot and then they lose the last 7 or whatever it is. I mean, he can always make a living as a Ryan Gosling stunt double, right? I mean, there's got to be some good money in that, right? So
he could just go to a dark bar and just say he's Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you ever seen The Notebook? And they'd be like,
Yeah.
Okay, time.
All right, so let's talk about the college football playoff rankings that came out this week. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I did not actually pull them up. College football. Sorry.
That's fair.
You think I'd be more prepared? My browser keeps auto-completing.
So as you're looking that up, basically we're at tied 14-14 in the third quarter, 1 minute to go in the third quarter in the TCU Baylor game, which has big playoff implications for the Big 12.
For the Big 12, yep.
Obviously, if TCU wins this game, the Big 12 is basically between OU and OSU.
Yep.
If Baylor wins this game and OSU wins Bedlam, then Baylor would have to win Texas for the Big 12. But at that point, I don't believe, because TCU is at 19 right now, Baylor could still get into the college playoffs, even winning the Big 12. Because of what Iowa did today, which is go 12-0, right? And so At this point, I don't know if it's the East or West or whatever, but the half of the Big Ten that Iowa's on, they've won that, and the half that Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State are on, that's actually still up for grabs, much like the Big 12 is.
Yeah.
So at this point, that Iowa thing is kind of odd because they're at 12-0, and if they win the Big 10, they're in. But if they lose the Big 10, does that catapult someone over them, even though they've played does that catapult Ohio State back into the playoffs over a one-loss Big 12 team? I mean, this is real interesting. Obviously you've got Notre Dame, who's got Stanford coming up. Stanford's ranked over OSU. And Stanford's playing well right now. Gosh, they haven't lost since that Northwestern debacle. They've got a Heisman, probably maybe win. If they win out, they'll be Heisman winning running back. That guy's ridiculous.
Yeah,
have you seen him? It's like weird. It's like he's just running and nobody's tackling him.
He reminds me a lot of like Rex Burkhead from Nebraska. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
Skinnier Rex Burkhead, but he just has power to him. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird. I can't tell if he's really good or just really lucky. I think at this point he's good. It's just I can't figure that out yet.
Again, it's another reason why he's probably good is you look at that Stanford offensive line. They're huge. Those guys are huge. So I think that has something to do with it. But it's interesting. I mean, like you said, the Big Ten playoff picture is really muddy. I think no matter what happens, though, I think we're going to get a Big Ten team in the top 4. Whether that's Iowa, whether that's Ohio State, if they end up winning, whether that's Michigan. I know the college football playoff, they're really high on Michigan right now. They really like Michigan because they're another traditional powerhouse, and we all know how that goes. And then, of course, Michigan State could go in there and win it. But I don't know. It's interesting because you look at, we focus so much on the top 10 or the top 15, but you start to look at the teams that the CFP committee is putting back into the top 25. You'll see an Oregon come back in at number 18 or whatever they're at. You'll see Northwestern creeping back in wherever they're at. You see all these other teams coming back in, and I think that, not to sound too conspiracy theory here, that they might be trying to stack the deck a little for an Iowa. So say Iowa goes undefeated, they'll say, oh, well, they have a top 25 win against Northwestern.
Exactly.
And so.
And on that point, how the heck is Houston not in the top 25?
That was fascinating to me.
One loss.
And
One
Navy
loss.
had one loss. Granted, it's to Notre Dame, but Navy was 15, and Houston was not even ranked. How do you explain that?
I mean, obviously they'll be ranked next week, but it'll be like 24.
Oh, sure.
At 11-1.
Right, and then Ole Miss creeping back up. That's the biggest travesty.
The travesty of all. You gotta build the case for Alabama, guys. I mean, you gotta get them up there. So let's talk about the real interesting thing, which is not a bad thing for us, but OU at number 3.
Right.
Like that's
Here's my thing about this, okay? So you've got a 1-loss OU team and a 1-loss Oklahoma State team. OU's loss was to Texas, who is currently bowl ineligible. Oklahoma State's loss.
Mentally ineligible. Sorry, Tommy.
Unofficial bowl ban.
There you go. Oklahoma State's loss is to Baylor, who right now is number 7, 9-1. How does this play out? Is it timing? Is it, it can't be quality.
No, I don't know. I really don't. It's how OU jumped so high is a mystery. Now, some people have said this. I think they deserve to be in the top 4. Don't get me wrong. I think they're playing quality football. They've proven it. If it's going to be anyone, it might as well be them, right? So,
I think that's the college football playoff committee's. But, if it's going to be anyone, let's just make it these names.
But you need a juggernaut. Remember our juggernaut discussion.
Right.
That's it.
You need a juggernaut. OU's playing well. They're very juggernauty. Right. Is Texas playing well? I haven't seen them all year. They're like, no, Texas sucks. Oh, okay. OU, let's put them in there.
Now, Garrett, I agree with you. OU is playing some quality football right now, and they probably deserve to be in the top 4. But it's just how they got there, to me. Right. That's the issue.
And how a TCU gets docked so much. But So what I want to know, though, is given how the committee has done whatever they're doing. So say enough chaos happens in the Big Ten, and Ohio State sustains another loss, and a 2-loss Michigan State or a 2-loss Michigan goes and plays Iowa, beats Iowa, then who is the College Football Playoff Committee going to vote as their big Big Ten type of winner? Do you go with the conference champion, or do you go with the person who's the one loss, who may have won in the or lost in the conference championship?
See, that would be interesting.
And
so
then,
you're saying Iowa gets in, even losing the Big Ten championship?
Sure. Or maybe
wow.
Michigan gets in. But here's what this is building up to. Let's say Stanford goes on and beats Notre Dame, and so Stanford has 2 losses, Notre Dame has 2 losses. Let's say hypothetically either Baylor wins out or OSU wins. Who gets that 4th spot? Does a 2-loss Michigan or a 2-loss Stanford or a 1-loss Oklahoma State or Baylor Big 12 champion claim that spot? I guess my point is there going to be enough chaos for someone like Oklahoma State or Baylor to get in. And would beating a number 3 OU for Oklahoma State, do you think the CFP committee, that would be a quality win? That would be enough for them to move us up considerably, like they did to OU?
Well, yeah, and then the problem is think of Baylor, right? They're like, what the heck? You can't put them, OSU in over us. We beat them at home. You know what I mean? With a 3rd-string quarterback, blah, 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 right? And it's like, yeah, but you lost to OU. Well, OU's a top 10 team. All these things, right? Sure. So, and at some point, I think the committee will have that conversation and say, we can't leave either of them in, just like they did last year with TCU and Baylor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Both will probably deserve it, but let's just go with Notre Dame.
Yeah, or
whatever.
2-loss Stanford, 2-loss Michigan, 2-loss Michigan State, whoever it is, So.
Yeah, and then they'll just be like, oh, you know what? They don't have a championship game.
Right.
So we should punish them for that. We're gonna teach them one way or the other.
Yeah.
So they've either got to win out and beat like Alabama, or we're not gonna let them in. Mm-hmm. So you pretty much screwed yourself losing to a really good Baylor team.
Yeah.
So my theory here is that every Big 12 team should schedule, Alabama and I'm going to say Oregon and Ohio State, the first 3 games. So all of us should play one of those teams the first 3 games, right? Even if we lose, it's awesome because we played.
Quality loss.
Absolute, yeah. And then we can go ahead and do the Big 12 thing. We can do, just act like we beat Central Michigan or whoever. And at some point, at some point we will. It'll all look like, the quality loss situation, right? Yeah. So Baylor has 4 turnovers. TCU has 2. It's still 14-14 in the 4th quarter. They're pretty much going 10 yards and punting.
Yep, it's going to be whoever gets in field goal range wins. So.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. So, does this make you guys feel like it's kind of the Big 12 versus the world, or like these people are out to get the Big 12, or the NCAA has it in for us?
I think.
Well, go ahead, man.
No, it's okay. So I don't want to say it's over. I think a lot of us in the Big 12 are kind of on this conspiracy theory bandwagon, but I think in a way that, I think that these committee members do indeed have preferences. I don't think they're willfully necessarily trying to jab the Big 12. And maybe they're thinking, you know what, if they get left out, this is a nice, byproduct. Maybe they'll get a championship game, make us some more money, whatever. That's great. But I don't think they're willfully doing it. But I do think that they're letting their biases kind of dictate the type of teams they're going to bump up a little more. I mean, I was looking at the College Football Playoff Committee makeup. 3 of them have Big Ten ties. 3 of them have SEC ties. 2 of them have Clemson ties. 2 of them have Notre Dame ties. 1 has a Stanford tie. It's just, you can't tell me that those people aren't going to have some sort of influence on their decisions, with those factors at play.
Well, of course. I mean, if they put us 3 on there, I think OSU would definitely be in the top 4. I'm just saying. Quality loss.
Oklahoma State, Baylor
is a
TCU.
Quality. No, it'd be a quality loss. Baylor is an excellent team.
Yeah, If you're looking at quality losses among the one-loss teams, it doesn't really get much more quality than.
No, that third-string quarterback is the best third-string quarterback in the nation.
I would probably agree.
Yeah. So, well, I think I would say that last week, but unfortunately, when we lost and kind of screwed things up, and they put OU up there, now that makes people like Joel Klatt and us not be able to stand on all three legs here because they're like whoa, you can't say you're not biased. OU's 3. You're like, ooh, and OU's over Iowa, who's undefeated. You're like, dang.
See, go ahead.
That may be something that they're doing to alleviate that pressure. To say, oh look, like you said, we're not biased. Look, we put OU number 3. But
OU number 3 totally feels like a makeup call.
Yeah.
Okay. It does, but
it's the holding after the pass interference that they probably didn't call. That's what that is.
Yeah, and OU's like, holy crap, how'd that happen? Dude, all we have to do is beat OSU at home.
Right.
And we're probably still not going to get in.
Yeah.
Now, my question is what happens if OU beats us at home, God forbid, and stays where they're at, and then at some point, because they're off, because all these championship games, they get moved out. How is that even remotely fair? I mean, that's like the TCU thing. They went from 3 to 6 after beating Iowa State 55-0 or something like that last year. That's basically the same thing. So why even put them up there at all?
Right.
You know what I mean? If that's going to happen anyway, why even put them up there? I mean, just so they don't want to hear people complain all week? I don't know. So it'll be interesting. We need to really think about what happens after this game. Obviously, if we win, that screws the Big 12. That'll jumble up the Big 12 situation. But if OU wins and somehow they stay there, but then after next week and they're off, they move down, there definitely is a conspiracy. I'm just
I think they're kind of playing the field here, trying to wait to see what happens. I think the advantage of putting number 3 or OU at number 3 right now is, so we know that Bedlam the past few years has just been nail biters, right? So I think it's safe to say that whoever wins this game, the odds are, I'm not saying that OSU won't get blown out because that could happen. I'm not saying OU won't get blown out because that could happen, but probably what's going to happen is a very close game for whoever wins. And so if OU wins Bedlam in a nail biter, and then you have someone in the SEC championship or the Big Ten championship, and they quote unquote outplay or do whatever, they're going to say, well, look at Iowa. They blew out Michigan State, so that was just such an impressive win that we think they should go above OU, who barely squeaked out Bedlam, right? So that may be the benefit of having OU at number 3 now, because that takes the pressure off of the whole conspiracy theory thing. And it kind of sets them up for a lot of different potential championships to maybe knock OU out if one of those teams has a quote-unquote impressive win. So
yeah, so if they didn't, so what you're saying is if they didn't put them in this week, then it would have been a conspiracy for the next month.
Right.
But because they did, and then they'll have the ability to say these impressive wins, that'll shut up the haters, the Joel Klatts.
Yeah. And that'll be their argument. They'll just be like, well, this was just a very impressive win. OU's win was great, but they just didn't win impressively enough. And so we're going to put this 2-loss team ahead of them, or whatever it may be. So.
Okay, so the real question, again, I think we asked this last week, or we talked about this last week, is 4 teams enough? Or so I keep saying the word Joel Klatt, I apologize, but earlier on Twitter he said something to the effect of he believes 8 teams is not enough. He thinks that the old BCS system that was picking between humans and computers was actually not that bad. You just needed a playoff to make, because they were having a problem with 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 3, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and all this. So he thinks 4 teams is perfect, but just take the 12 people out of this equation and make it more computerized, and or maybe have 3 or 4 sets of people doing it, not just one set of people.
Right.
And so my question to you guys is, what do you think about 8 teams versus 4 teams, or what the difference you think is in that?
Well, I think there's a lot of different possible scenarios you could do. I think ideally, my father-in-law had talked about this, but say you have super conferences of 16 teams each. Then a 14 playoff would make sense, right? The conference winner of each conference gets in. That's easy, right? But I think as it stands right now, if you're using this committee format, 4 just isn't enough because you're going to have one Power 5 conference left out, and the quote-unquote, you can't call them BCS busters anymore, but let's say you have an undefeated Memphis or an undefeated Houston or whoever goes, they're not going to get a shot.
They'll never again. Never.
They never will. Right. That'll never happen again. And that was something that we kind of loved about the BCS, right? Was that you would have these dark horses come up and cause controversy. But I think to be fair, you would have to do an 8-team. If you're going to continue on with this committee, you have to do an 8-team. You have to. Because that means, ideally, the champions of all Power 5s would get in, and then you have 3 at large, right? That could be the second best in the SEC, which it probably would be, the second best in the Big Ten, which it probably would be, and then your at large, which would be your Memphis or your Houston or your Boise, whoever it is. So,
which would give those guys something to play for, and it'd be more exciting. Now, I agree totally. However, Joel Klatt thought that would negate the regular season, and I didn't really understand what he meant by that. Because wouldn't that make the regular season even more important if you knew you could get in based on the regular season? I mean, I'm kind of confused because to me, I agree with what you're saying because then that makes the whole Cinderella thing, the March Madness idea of these, the Butlers or these guys playing the big dogs. Like if they get in the playoffs and they just are hot or for whatever reason, I mean that's awesome. I mean, God forbid they ever beat OSU, but I'm just saying that's a cool idea, right? Because I guarantee nobody wants to play Houston in a bowl game. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. So
ask Ole Miss if they want to play Memphis again, and we'll see.
No.
Here's my thought on the 8-big or the 18 playoff games, 18 playoff schedule, I guess. So you have Clemson, Alabama, OU, Iowa, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Baylor, and Ohio State get in. So then your next 2 are Stanford and Michigan, and then Oklahoma State, and then Florida. So even at 8, the waters are still pretty muddy at 9, 10, 11, 12.
Sure.
So I get that there has to be a point where teams are just like dropping off at some point. I don't know what that number is, and it's going to be different every year. I think the thing that worries people about an 18 playoff or 16 or whatever is you're adding that many more games, so it's that many more opportunities for players to get hurt. It's that many more times for the conference to look greedy.
What about this? So I agree, yeah, that totally increases the injury thing. But why don't you just shorten the regular season by 1 game? I mean, that would eliminate maybe playing some of those FCS schools, right? So
yeah, the problem with that is some of these FCS schools probably would go under if they weren't playing Alabama. So you're knocking a whole game off. Mm-hmm. They play each other, they make $40,000. They play Alabama, they make $4 million. That could be the difference in them being a team and not. So I mean, that decision I think is probably you're going to shave off some teams,
sure.
And that's a big deal to those teams that are shaved off, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about it like that, you're exactly right. You'd have to shave off some games because Baylor's down to the 3rd-string quarterback. Everybody else is just broken. I mean, it's not the NFL where there's 16 guys behind you that could fill your shoes and would love to fill your shoes for 2 games, or whatever to have their shot. It's not like that, you have a lot, it's not as small as an NFL team, but the NFL basically has these guys waiting for a phone call, you know what I mean?
In the NFL, you don't have red shirts, you don't have this or that, you don't have guys you're trying to save and do all this. In the NFL, you just play. There's nothing holding you back from doing that. But maybe if you do an 8-team, that kind of gives you a little more wiggle room for scheduling. Maybe if you have an 8-team, you don't have to schedule Florida State for your opener. You don't have to put Ohio State on your docket because the reality is that if you're in a Power 5 conference, you're going to get in. There's not going to be that debate of strength of schedule unless you're one of those at-large teams in a smaller conference.
Yeah, and then the problem there would be nobody would ever play anybody good.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Yeah, actually, you may get more FCS teams.
Exactly.
Because they're not playing each other. Oh, that's a good point. But then I think the bias of like the Big 12 sucks because they haven't played anybody, or the Pac-12 sucks, or whoever wants to suck. It's basically the same thing. You need the cross-pollination of the different conferences for comparison. Just to say, say the Big 12 was down one year and somebody has to win it, right? But we all suck, right? Well, although that's what they're saying right now with TCU and Baylor being at the top, or at least were, is the conference must be down because these guys can't be good, right? Especially last year. But, I think there's just a lot of implications for the A team. I think 8 is the way to go, and I don't want it to be like 64 or whatever, like basketball. But I think 8's the way to go, and I don't know that we'll get there next year, but I think it'll take some serious debacles, and maybe the Big 12 being left out 3 years in a row might be the debacle. I don't know, but okay, what's next, Chris?
Okay, so as we move on, let's EJ, what is the score of the Baylor TCU game, and where are we?
We are still 14-14.
How much time we got?
We have 9 minutes to go in the fourth. TCU just did not convert, so it's 4th and 3. He basically threw a pass, and it didn't even make it 5 yards into the receiver's hands. So one thing, there was a rain delay, and it's like, oh, everybody in the nation saying, oh, rain delay. So I just spent the week in Colorado, and at some point the degrees were 10 degrees, and it hovered around 40 to 45 degrees, but it got cold there, right? But it was extremely dry, and when I mean dry, it was really dry. So I get back to Oklahoma, and it's like 35 degrees, and I go out, and my hands hurt so bad. They're like red and like pain in my bones. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? It's not that cold here. It's the humidity, gosh dang it. And I swear, if those guys are going through what I did today, just like getting my dogs from the people that were keeping them, like getting, picking up their stuff in the cold, and if those guys are dealing with that right now, I feel sorry for them. And I know why it's 14-14. I couldn't catch a ball to save my life today.
And they're all Texas kids. I mean,
yeah, it's like, ow, ouch.
What is this?
Why is it so cold? And you look last week when Ohio State is playing Michigan State, it was, and it was just a piss poor offensive outing. Quite honestly, I think it was really cold at that game, and like we forget about that. These high-powered offenses don't work well when it's cold.
No, the balls bounce. They're hard. It's just...
Oh, no. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, these have you guys worn the newfangled gloves with the rubber on them? Have you guys worn those?
Nah.
They're unbelievable. Like, you can just, you just Odell Beckham all day. You're just like...
Can we get one for Rudolph, please?
Yes, please. Hey... That was like 5 games ago.
I know.
He wouldn't be able to get rid of it, though. When he goes,
he's like,
he goes straight down.
No, they're amazing. I don't know how anybody drops a ball anymore. Like, when I was in high school, we had these leather ones, and they, after like 2 games, they got so slick that you had to like spray stick them on them, and I always felt like that was cheating, so I never did it. I just used my hands, but like these guys had these gloves. This is way tangent, but you should catch every ball. It's not fair how easy it is to catch a ball nowadays.
Okay, so let's do our battle, and we're going to do a shortened version of it because our game this week was supposed to be Baylor TCU. Fortunately for us, it's not a blowout. It's tied, so we can still do this relatively fairly.
Game.
Yep.
Okay, so 0-0, baby.
So it's basically 0-0. We're going to mix it up a little bit. I think I'm going to be the ref. I think as our guest, I'm going to let Garrett pick which team he wants to be.
Okay. I'll pick TCU. I'll be TCU.
Okay. You're TCU, then I'm going to change my colors to Baylor colors, all right?
There you go. Okay. Well, EJ gets that. The format here is that we are going to try and pick a non-Oklahoma State game, do a little bit of research, and what we're going to do is we're going to try and pretend like we are the fans and passionately argue why our team is going to win each week. And so, like I said, this week is Baylor TCU. Fortunately, it's 14-14 or basically 0-0. And so the rule is that home team goes second. So which puts EJ is Baylor, and he is going first. And you have, I'm going to say, let's give you 1 minute each, and then I get to determine the winner because I said so. So, EJ, you got your Baylor colors ready?
Okay, you ready? Can you see me now? Okay, so we are now Baylor green.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so
right.
First off, Baylor can run the ball, right? We have an offensive line, so we're going to stop throwing it, although we just threw it downfield and it hit the guy's hands and now he's holding his hand. Regardless, we have the momentum. We lost to an extremely good Oklahoma team. I mean, they're like world beater Oklahoma team. Look at them. They're 3 in the nation right now. Ask Condoleezza Rice. Okay, so Baylor, we can run it. We have one of the best third-string quarterbacks in the nation. He went deep on OSU, and we know how hard that is. Okay, listen to me, guys. Okay, so our coach is Briles. He's more cocky than your coach. He knows how to be cocky. He's got the cock to back up the cocky. We all know this, y'all. He's going to folksy you up. Okay, you can't handle this, folks, right? Okay, so first off, it doesn't matter if it gets down to the very last second because our kicker never misses, even in the cold rain.
Yeah.
He likes heavy balls. Okay, so
time's up.
Okay,
so it's one of those things. It's like you ask somebody to just talk for a minute, and you think, "Oh, that's super easy," but then you get like 30 seconds into it, you're like, "What do I say?"
Okay,
which is what I was doing last week, but that was really good, EJ. Good job.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Garrett, you ready?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, first of all, you want to talk about quality losses to Oklahoma teams. It doesn't get much more quality than losing by 1 point. 1 point. A 2-point conversion away from beating those world beaters, whereas Baylor, you were 10 points behind. Come on, you got completely outclassed. Second, TCU has shown that they have some fight. Sure, they're injured. Sure, their stars are kind of out. Sure, but Trevon Boykin is back in. The defense is young, but they're learning. They showed a lot of guff by holding OU to 30 points. But again, the main reason why TCU is going to win this is 2 words, Trevon Boykin. Okay? Sure, you have your Chris Johnson, you have your Corey Coleman, but they are not Trevon Boykin. And Baker Mayfield showed that he can beat a Baylor team with elusiveness. And you know who does elusiveness better than Baker Mayfield? Trevon Boykin. That is why TCU is going to win. And they can run the ball, too. We have Kavonte Turpin, we have Aaron Green, and you have an injured Shock Linwood and some Chafin guy who I've never heard of. But look, we're going to win this because of experience. We've been in this position before. We're hungry. We proved in the postseason that we wanted it when you lost to Michigan State. What did you do? So,
EJ, I should have warned you. Garrett is our content guy.
I've got one thing to say, and it's 61-58.
Okay, that was last year, but this is this year. That's another thing. Revenge.
Oh, that was excellent. Great job, guys. So EJ's argument is experience, and Garrett is Trevon Boykin.
That may be 2 words, but that's a lot more syllables.
Oh, goodness. I don't know how much use. So I'm not going to, and I'm going to let the game actually decide.
Okay, that'll work. Okay, at this point, it's still tied. Baylor just punted. So they got the ball. When I started, they got the ball back. And when you ended, they punted.
So
I mean, it must be really, really hard to move the ball.
Yes.
I've been watching since about the second quarter, and it has just rained nonstop down there.
It's cold there.
And it's cold. Yeah.
So Bedlam's going to be like this tomorrow.
I hope. I've heard. I don't know. I haven't checked the forecast, but I heard it's supposed to clear out towards the end. But it'll still be cold. It'll still be wet.
Oh yeah. It's going to be raining, and then it's going to turn to freezing rain during the game, and then it's going to stop freezing raining. So I'm not sure we're ever going to get home from this game, but.
And one great thing, actually, is that it's at Boone Pickens Stadium, which is artificial and has a fantastic drainage system. Yep. So they will be slipping, but it won't be sloshy.
Yeah,
so
it won't be like TCU. If you've seen the turf, which I'm sure you have, the turf is just completely torn up.
So let's talk about that for a second. So the problem is if it gets nasty like this, you can't really pass it. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, OSU, all they do is pass it.
They can't run it.
Yeah, that's really what I was saying. So, and then there's a word I'd like to say is pirine. But it's like, oh dear God, this guy's gonna crush our.
Hey, let's not forget, pirine and Mixon both have ankle sprains. So does
Yeah. Well, that's how we beat them last year. We basically hurt pirine, and at that point, that changed the game. That changed the whole thing. And not that I would ever say, hey, hurt the guy. I mean, it's never that.
But you want to enforce your will. You want to make them think twice about running it hard. So.
Yeah. And you just got to hit them. I mean, and I believe our guys can do that.
So, do you think if the weather conditions are that bad, do you think that we roll with Walsh as QB1?
I think we do. Yeah.
To me, that makes the most sense strategically, just because you're just not going to throw the ball. You're just not going to very well anyway. Yeah. I think the smart thing to do would be, well, this is your game, Walsh.
Here you go. Last game of regular season for your senior year. Let's see what you got. Yeah, that's kind of messed up for Rudolph, but I think strategically, I think you do that. I don't know how you do that without making Rudolph feel like he's benched. You know what I mean? I think they've done it enough where he wouldn't feel like that, and I think they just tell him, hey, look, we can't pass it because, for whatever reason. But
well, and Rudolph has a banged up foot as well, so he's not going to be able to run. Even though he can run, he wouldn't be able to run as well, and the conditions are sloppy. So I think Gundy sits him down and says, listen, it's nothing personal, it's strategic.
Yeah.
J-Dub's the man today.
Yeah. So my question is can J-Dub have any, can they roll with J-Dub? I mean,
I think they can. I think it all just depends on the scheme we use. I think we've seen a lot of different run looks to try and get something going, but I don't know why we're not seeing the diamond formation like we used to see so long ago. Why don't you roll out of that? I mean, look, it doesn't matter if our backs are that great, but if you have Chris Carson there, if you have J.W. Walsh, if you have Raymond Taylor there, if you have Rennie Childs all in that diamond formation, it's still hard to defend. And J.W. can still do a little pop pass to whoever may be there. Maybe it's Glidden. Maybe it's, I don't know if Seaton is back or not. But I know Jarwin's out. But you have those options for that short yardage game. And I think they can do it. I think it's just a matter of, will the offensive line play inspired? And I think if they're going to play inspired for anyone, it's going to be J.W. Walsh. Now, will that happen? I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of faith in that offensive line. But, again, I just don't know. I don't know.
I still don't understand how they can pass block so well and run block so poorly. I don't understand it. And I think it has something to do with how quick Mason Rudolph gets the ball out of his hands. I've heard statistically he gets it out very fast. And that has to be why he's better than no, don't get me wrong, I think he's the man and I love him. But that's got to be why he's better than Dax immediately, because Dax could spin the ball, but he just held on to it and was like, I just don't understand how that could be so different, like pass blocking versus run blocking, and especially because of the history of OSU, we have historically been really good run blockers. I mean, it's just this blows my mind how bad this is.
Another thing I haven't seen a whole lot of OSU running 6 or 7 man fronts, where they have all your linemen and some tight ends or whoever it is blocking all up front to really protect that run. It's just your core set of linemen, and then they try and maybe run through the tackles, and then maybe they try a swing or but I don't know. I don't know why they haven't tried putting more bodies in there to get more blocking essentially. I'm not sure why they haven't done that, and maybe they have a few times, and maybe it didn't work. I think they've tried a bunch of different things, and it just hasn't worked well. But I don't know. This is Bedlam. Again, this is Bedlam. We could very well see a monumentous running performance, or we could be completely blown out, or maybe it's not that big of a deal. Maybe the rain lets up. Maybe it's clear. Maybe it's good enough for Rudolph to air it out. I don't know. We're not going to know until kickoff.
Until it happens. Yeah, so that Dax Garman reference reminds us that we have gone way over time. and which means we need to wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us for the special Bedlam version of the Vitamin B12 podcast. We are going to try and be here every Wednesday for the college football season. Just trying this thing out, see what happens. Talking about Big 12 football and with orange-colored glasses on. Thank you, Mr. Garrett Sauls, for joining us. It was a pleasure having you today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, as usual, to EJ Hayes, my trusty sidekick and partner in crime.
Woo!
And I'm Chris Armstrong, and like I said, we're going to try and be back here Wednesday night, but we will post links on our social media feed. We appreciate it, and go Pokes.